With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
I'm Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com.
And I'm Scott Chasen with Fog.net.
This is a replay of WIBW's TV show, The Drive.
Here's this week's episode on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Good evening, Wildcat and Jayhawk fans, and welcome to The Drive, sponsored by FlintHillsAuto.com. I am Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com. And the man to my right is Scott Chasen at Fog.net. On a very somber night in the world of sports, we will discuss Kobe Bryant's passing a little bit later in the show, but wow. I mean, wow. And what's sad about it is you can't trust the first reports anymore. So many people have faked the death with the tweet or something of celebrities. You just got to be real patient until it's verified.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do when something like this happens, is just to be patient, let everything come out. But yeah, certainly a tragedy, and obviously the way no one wanted to begin their Sunday, and certainly our thoughts are with their family.
You can interact with us on social media at Facebook.com/The Drive Show, on Twitter at The Drive 13, and of course answer our weekly poll question and make your game predictions at TheDriveShow.com. And remember, if you ever miss an episode of The Drive, you can listen to an audio-only version that will appear each Monday morning in the form of a podcast at GoPowerCat.com and Fog.net. And we start things off with our 2-minute drill. Our 2-minute drill is sponsored by Hula Hands. They've been expecting you. Now let's eat. Scott, Kansas is down to 2 big men at the moment, at least for one more game. How did the 5-guard lineups look against Tennessee, and can they be better at Oklahoma State?
Just a little correction there. Not down to 2 big men, down to 1 big man.
Okay.
Because with
down
the
big men.
Down 2, yeah, with the suspension.
Right,
and I mean, for Udoka Azubuike, it's kind of unbelievable, because here's a guy who lost so much weight. Some people, he has actually said like 40 or 50 pounds. His listing has only changed by about like 10 or 15 pounds. So probably somewhere in the middle, but he lost a lot of weight to put himself in shape for his senior season. And the result of that is, before this last game, he had played 31 or more minutes in 4 straight games. Now, this was a guy who had averaged something like 20 to 24 minutes in each of his first 2 seasons. So that helps a lot, right? When you have this game where you only have 1 big man and you go to your 5-guard lineup and boom, you get outscored by 10 points almost instantly. In that stretch. Azubuike got into foul trouble in this game. He picked up his 2nd foul about midway through that first half, and like I said, Tennessee instantly went on a run. KU tried to put Tristan Enaruna, who is only about an inch shorter and maybe 20 pounds lighter than the Tennessee big. They tried to put him at the 5. The problem is he doesn't know the plays from the 5. He's a wing. He's a 3 most of the time. So he's not going to know how to run the plays on offense from the 5. It's going to be awkward with him defending that position. He actually picked up a moving screen right away, because again, how many times is this guy screening in the KU basketball offense? He's normally a guy you would want with the ball in his hand. So to answer the question, I would say yes. The 5-guard lineups have to be much better. But the easier remedy to that is maybe Udoka Azubuike doesn't get in foul trouble. His career high is 35 minutes played. He recently did that in a game at Texas, just a few games back. He's played 34 minutes going back to his sophomore year. I believe it was the 2nd game of the season. KU learned they didn't have Billy Preston, and Azubuike goes out and plays 34 minutes. So he's done it when he's needed to. But it's those silly fouls, reaching in on a rebound, doing things you just can't do. He's got to avoid those, or KU's going to fall at Oklahoma State.
His game's really good right now. I mean, it's just really impressive to watch him. And, I think people still define him by those first 2 seasons. He's in shape, he's more mobile, he's a better defender, better scorer. It's just really fun to watch him.
Yeah, I think defense is probably that biggest area. Bill Self has now elevated him to say he doesn't know if there's a better big man defender around, and after the game the other day, he said in the country, maybe not even a better defender, and that's high praise from a guy who doesn't give defensive compliments. He doesn't give those lightly.
Go find the guy in Canada who's better. He didn't say North America.
That's true. That's a very good point. Well, Fitz, K-State went to Alabama to play its game in the Big 12 SEC Challenge and lost 77-74. Losing close games is a trend for this K-State team. Why is that?
Yeah, well, they just don't have enough tools. They really don't. They don't have enough ability to finish off games like this. It's been frustrating to watch K-State down the stretch. This was an interesting game. K-State, of course, played a little shorthanded without Antonio Gordon, who was suspended due to the melee in Allen Fieldhouse. We'll get to that in a bit. And this is a roster that doesn't have many bodies on it right now, at least players able to play. Although James Love seemed very fit at the end of that KU game, even though he's injured right now.
Good first step.
Yeah, no, really quick. As quick as I've ever seen him. Mike McGurl came back from his concussion, so that helped a little bit. But what didn't help were turnovers, and K-State just turned the ball over in some crucial times. They played really well in the first half. In fact, K-State led by 1 point at halftime. And then the start of the second half was really the problem, more than the finish of the game. The Wildcats fell behind by 16 points as they just really went flat. And then all of a sudden they found themselves again and made a really significant run and got this game to 1 point on 3 different possessions and could not make that definitive play. It was a turnover, a missed shot, just didn't value possessions enough. And that's really the story of this team, Scott. They don't value crucial possessions as well as you need to. When you're down the stretch, you can't turn the ball over. You have to know exactly, be definitive about what kind of shots you want. And even when K-State was within 4 points with a little more than a minute to go, they were chucking up wild three-pointers like it was about the buzzer. They just didn't. These upperclassmen aren't finite enough in their game to really deliver victories for this team. But I'll say this. This team played extremely hard, and you haven't been able to say that about the Wildcats all season long. And I think that was a really good sign for K-State, that even though they were down one of their freshmen who's a real high-activity guy, they did play fairly well. I know it seems like I'm saying it's a moral victory, but Alabama's a pretty good team this year. And to go on the road and hang by 3 and really have a chance to win it, that's a good sign, but boy, they got to figure out how to win these games.
Yeah, you do have to figure out, how to win, and sometimes that only comes with losing. It's something no one wants to hear. Moral victories is another one of those words that I think a lot of fan bases cringe at, especially if you haven't been very good for a long time. Still, I think there's reason to be positive, big picture-wise, with Kansas State.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't flip a switch and turn around. You sometimes have to take those steps forward.
Yeah. Well, let's look back to the events Tuesday night at Allen Fieldhouse. KU easily won the game, but the melee at the game's end stole the headlines and led to 4 players being suspended. Fitz, start with you. Did the Big 12 get this right? 12 for DeSosa and kind of everyone down from there.
Yeah, really. 8 for James Love, who I'm not sure will ever play again. I mean, he's got chronic foot issues. I think he was probably getting close to coming back. And now, I mean, there's 5 more games. 13 more guaranteed for the season. So if he's not suspended within the next 5 games, he's not going to play at all, or not off injured reserve in the next 5 games. This was a mess. And really what happened here is from the moment that DeSosa stood over Gordon here, it just escalated. Everything that took place kept escalating. We saw a surge of people, and then Antonio Gordon right there gives a big shove, down goes DeSosa, and then it really escalates.
Yeah.
This was ugly. I think, if anything, they were too light on their punishments. I think everyone could have had a couple more games added in.
You think all 4?
Yeah, I do. I was a little stunned at the lower end how low they were. The most, there was a lot of punches thrown there by DeSouza, but he didn't really connect anything. I mean, he looked like me in a fight, just kind of flailing about. James Love looked like a Frankenstein. He was just, I don't know what he was doing. It was, as fights go, it wasn't really a good fight.
I'm now picturing you fighting Frankenstein, so that's
that's a good view. The whole thing was so disappointing because both teams were wrong. I'm sick of the fan bases trying to assess blame all to the other side. Both teams were wrong here. They all screwed up. And the guys were punished for it.
Yeah, no, I actually completely agree with you, and I would say this. I actually thought the Big 12 nailed it. If you want to say add on an extra game or 2, I agree with that. And look, some KU fans are mad because, DeSosa's only getting 12 games because the K-State game is 11 games away. Here's what I say to that. You lose the right to pick your punishment when you put yourself in a position to be punished. That's what punishments are. They're supposed to discourage you from doing the thing you did again, and they're not supposed to feel great. No one should walk away from this being like, wow, I really like that punishment. That's that perfect, you nailed it, and they're supposed to be harsh. They're supposed to be severe. I actually think the Big 12 got it right, which has made both KU and K-State fans mad at me this week.
Awesome. That's always, you know you're doing it right when everyone is mad at you, including my wife. I don't know why she's mad at you. Now, a quick look at your poll question results. Poll questions are brought to you by Film at 11, your go fast, look good, play hard custom shop.
Well, last week's question was, how many Super Bowl rings will Patrick Mahomes win during his NFL career? We look at the results, 0, 5%. Good job. 95% of you. 1 Super Bowl ring, 15%. 2 Super Bowl rings, 30%. Half of you think he will win 3 or more.
I picked D because I thought it'd be like 77 rings. He's going to win.
Will they give out multiple per?
No, he's just going to play a long time.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm going with. Here's this week's question. Number 1, Baylor hasn't lost since falling to Washington in the second game of the season. When will the Bears lose next? Here's your answers. These next 4 games are your choices.
You're going to do sound effects for every mascot?
A, at Iowa State on the 29th. B, I'm not doing it, versus TCU on the 1st of February. They come to K-State for a mini Monday on the 3rd of February. Then they play host to Oklahoma State on the 8th. Those are 4 of the worst teams in the conference. TCU's doing okay, though. Let's not slight them. Or E, they'll win their next 4 games. Vote at thedriveshow.com.
I know every team in the Big 12 plays every day. Baylor's starting hard and having that like back-to-back Texas Tech KU stretch. Now it feels like they're going to get to coast for a little bit.
Yeah, it's not going to coast for a while. We'll get to that in the second segment.
Well, that will do it for this half of the 2-minute drill, but we will be right back with more on KU and K-State on The Drive.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order 'em up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
Welcome back to The Drive as we continue our weekly 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill is sponsored by Hula Hands. They've been expecting you. Now let's eat. Devon Dotson has continued to play through a hip injury, but still poured in 22 points on Saturday. Scott, what do you make of the point guard and how he's playing right now for the Hawks?
Well, he's playing at a high level. He's playing hurt, playing through what the team has called a hip pointer. And, you know, it was so interesting that Saturday's game against Tennessee, to me, was one of, it was kind of a confusing performance because at times he was really moving the ball well. This is a guy who has struggled at times with his decision making, with his accuracy on passing, especially lobs, which you just saw there, especially throwing it to big men, just throwing it into the post. And when this game started, Udoka Azubuike, again, he's the lone big in the game. You might expect him to coast a little bit. No, he was screaming, clapping for the ball, and he was wide open for it. There is not a better basketball player in the country, one-on-one, than Udoka Azubuike 2 feet from the basket. He's 7 feet tall, he's 250 pounds, he's gonna turn and dunk it. He shoots 80% from the field. But that's where he gets his offense from. So for KU to miss him as many times as they did, I think led to a lot of frustration. But then he picked it up. Then his passing got going. It was actually a stretch where he checked out of the game after a finish at the rim. It looked like he dinged his hip. He checked out of the game for a minute, and KU gave up 6 straight points on 2 straight possessions. He comes back in, delivers an assist to an Ochai Agbaji 3, then he scores at the rim on the next possession. Late in the game, he made 3 clutch free throws. He also had this kind of runner-type jumper in the lane to put them up 6 points with maybe 5 minutes left. At times, this was the best game Devon Dotson has played in his career. He was locked in, he was getting to the rim, and he was stopping the bleeding when things weren't working. You know, that's been a knock against him this year, is when things aren't going well for KU. A lot of the times you look at Devon Dotson and say, oh, that's why they're not going well. You think about that, you know, the plays down the stretch at Villanova. This was a game where it was the opposite. Things started going poorly, and Devon Dotson said, hold on, I'm going to right the ship. I'm going to settle things. You saw it with his passing. You saw it with his scoring. And I think defensively he can get to another gear. I think that's more related to injury. He's one of the best players in the nation. Ken Pom actually hasn't missed the atop the National Player of the Year rankings, but I think that's more based on statistics and team success than anything else. He's a great player. Just needs to put it all together at the right times.
Have you ever had a hip pointer?
No, not one.
They're not fun. Let's put it this way. If I had a hip pointer, I wouldn't be on the air right now. I'd be home moaning. And he's out there running around playing basketball.
Yeah, he's a tough kid. He's a tough kid. Well, K-State is now 8-11 on the season and will face Oklahoma on Wednesday, followed by, get this, games against West Virginia and Baylor. So by any measurement, Fitz, can this season be saved for the Wildcats?
Well, you better win that Oklahoma game, and Antonio Gordon will be out a couple more games. It's just a really tough part of the schedule right now for Kansas State. I mean, think about it. They're coming off Kansas in there, then they had the SEC Challenge, and don't forget somehow they beat West Virginia, but that bill will probably come due Saturday in Morgantown. I kind of am a little bit scared to see what the Mountaineers do to Kansas State, because they certainly look past the Wildcats, and the Wildcats played their best game of the season when they met in Manhattan. Yeah, it's going to be tough here. I mean, winning against Oklahoma, a team they led for most of the game in Norman until, they blew a lead late and lost a close game. They really kind of need to get that game, and they need to come out with a sense of urgency on Wednesday night at Bramlage Coliseum. This team is slowly finding itself. It's not like there's an upside that is enormous for this team and they're just really not playing well. Their upside is being decent, and that's the cold hard truth. They played out of their minds against West Virginia, but I'm not sure they can replicate that going down the stretch. What they can do is play with a great deal of energy. They did that at Alabama. And Coach Weber has turned to his newcomers quite a bit. Now he's lost Antonio Gordon, but he did move Dejuan Gordon into the starting lineup. Cortez Jada did not start at Alabama, which I thought was very interesting. And of course, David Sloan is seeing more and more time as this season progresses. So this is a really interesting situation for Kansas State. They need those veterans to be better. I think they shot like 30% from the field when Snead and Jada in that Alabama game, but they really need to turn this over to the young guys and say, live and learn, take your losses, take your lumps, and go win some games. And oh, by the way, Baylor and West Virginia are really good.
Yeah, well, hey.
It's Baylor on Saturday, or West Virginia on Saturday and Baylor on Monday.
That's tough. That's really tough.
Yeah.
One thing, you mentioned Dejuan Gordon. I just wanted to say I was really glad that he was not suspended. I saw some people saying he started it, the whole altercation by stealing the ball. I would actually remind you that immediately before that, like just seconds before, Silvio De Sosa got a huge block at the basket. So he may have been responding to that by saying, oh, you guys are playing, then we're going to play. And then Silvio said, oh, you guys are playing, then we're going to play. And that's
all of
both
that
sides.
It was ill-advised,
sides.
But it was still part of the game. And now we step out of bounds, and it's a sad, sad day in sports, particularly for anyone who grew up watching the NBA during the Kobe Bryant era of domination. Kobe, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and three others, now we're hearing others included, maybe as many as 9, died Sunday in a helicopter crash outside of Los Angeles. Scott, is it possible to put into words what Kobe Bryant meant to the world of sports? Well,
I think anyone who cares about basketball has an opinion on Kobe Bryant. I think Kobe has affected so many different people in terms of, you know, I grew up, I'm a Phoenix Suns fan. That was the team I grew up watching. I hated Kobe Bryant. I couldn't stand him. He always hit the shots. He always had that look on his face. You never wanted to go up against him. Then I grew to appreciate him. I grew to appreciate him, especially post-basketball when he wasn't eliminating my team from the playoffs. And then just his attention to detail, his mind. You know, there have been a lot of thoughts on this tragedy. That's what it is, a tragedy. And even some who have, you know, kind of talked about, well, should we have this discussion, or don't necessarily glorify whatever. Look, everyone has flaws. You should certainly never minimize those flaws. Everyone makes mistakes. You should certainly never minimize those mistakes, but you still mourn people when they pass. He was a father. His daughter obviously reported to be dead with him. Just absolutely tragic and horrible. I can't imagine what that family is going through. And like we said,
his wife had 4 daughters. 3 of them we hope have survived. We will hear more as we tape the show. We don't know everyone on board. It's an incredibly sad situation. I am not a big NBA guy, but I really do feel for all of you who really do love and cherish Kobe Bryant. My guy was Jordan and Magic and Bird. That's my era. And Kobe had his own era. And of course, now this is LeBron's time. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable, because he was such a positive person to not only basketball players, but a lot of other people that he crossed paths with. And he just really turned out to be a pretty special human being who, like all of us, was flawed and publicly flawed because of his status. Yeah,
definitely a tragedy. Now, let's move on. Let's hear from the fans. And our fan question this week is about the Super Bowl. What Super Bowl storyline will you guys be tracking this week? That's from Aaron in Topeka.
Now, it's interesting because there are 3 K-State players in this game. Of course, Byron Pringle with the Chiefs, and Elijah Lee and DJ Reed with the 49ers. What's interesting is, they're all from Snyder 2.0, and all 3 of them came out early, which not many guys do off of K-State's team. So I'll kind of keep an eye on if any of those guys do anything.
Yeah, I think big picture, the legacy of Patrick Mahomes, you'll hear people say it's the start of a dynasty. You'll hear people say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, he only has 1 Super Bowl. So many guys never get back. Peyton Manning didn't get back or didn't win a second one until the last year of his career. I think you'll hear that conversation on both sides. I just tell you to enjoy it while you can. If you're a Chiefs fan, whether they win or lose, obviously you'll be hoping they win. I think we might be in that same boat. Just enjoy the ride. The Super Bowls are special. Only 2 teams make it. They don't come along.
And remember, we will be taping before the game next week so that we can enjoy the ride and watch the game with our friends and family.
Yeah, so remember to ask us your questions on our Facebook page and on Twitter at The Drive 13. And when we return, we will look at our predictions here on The Drive.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back as we head down the home stretch of this week's show. Now it's time to look at our predictions. The predictions are brought to you by Vanderbilt's, your work boot center. And remember to make your weekly predictions at thedriveshow.com. Here are last week's results. I went 3-0. Viewers went 2-1. Scott went 1-2. Things are getting tight here in the neighborhood. I nailed every spread, too. I was really proud of that. I was more proud of that than my actual. Okay, here's the thing. We had to pick a spread here that would make me pick Kansas State, so we'd have something different. So we actually put Virginia by 14.5. Will K-State lose by less than 15? I say yes, and I still think you're going to be right.
I'm taking West Virginia. That's how this happened. We just raised it more and more until
I would take Kansas State.
And next is Texas Tech plus 4.5 at Kansas. A very good line.
Thank you. And I'm going to actually take Tech on this. I think this is going to be a competitive game.
I'll take Kansas and not feel great about it.
Well, that's why I spend most of my life. And our last game of the week is a little thing called the Super Bowl or the big game. Kansas City -1 versus San Francisco. Is there any doubt who we're taking? Chiefs.
No, I'm just kidding. We're both taking the Chiefs.
San for Chiefs.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, make your picks over at thedriveshow.com. And now it's time for our On the Clock segment. And On the Clock is sponsored by Carpet One, buy local for a strong local community. And we start off with Mr. Scott Chasen of Fog.net.
Well, just a quick note here as the show runs down. Marcus Garrett, one of the toughest players on the KU team. He dealt with a left ankle injury. He dealt with a right ankle injury. At Texas, he had that very scary fall where I think he scared himself a little bit. He came out of the game, came back in and played, but that arena was dead silent. Another fall in the game against Tennessee. It was a flagrant foul. He was going for a dunk, and it wasn't malicious, but he got hit to the ground. Popped back up. We talked to him after the game. He said he's going to be fine. So
that's very
all good there.
It's a really tough day in the world of sports, and I was really not taking it well. I'm not even a Kobe fan, but boy, the loss of young lives on top of that really made it difficult. That's it for this week's edition of The Drive. We will see you here next week and all week on social media.
Everyone's obsessed with Mean Girls.
Get in, loser.
It's the party of the year and the most fun you'll have at the theater.
That is so fetch.
You won't stop laughing.
Like right now or like ever.
Mean Girls, rated PG-13, now playing only in theaters.